The time has come for the Toxicroak PvP IV deep dive, basically going over the important stat checks and IVs for Toxicroak in both the Great League and Ultra League PvP metas. If you're not too familiar with the deep dive series here, I'm going to be talking about the hidden true stats of Pokemon and their associated breakpoints. If you're not too familiar with these concepts, please check out my PvP IVs simplified video, link up above and in the description. Basically, get your feet wet before diving off into the deep end here with PvP IVs. And to make things a lot more simple, I will be providing PvP IV tables, so highlighting all the IVs that I'm going to be talking about in this video, and you can find these tables linked in my GamePress article down in the description, and the article on GamePress also covers everything in this video in a text-based format for easy reference. So yeah, without further ado, let's start talking about Toxicroak here. When it comes to the Great League, there are three primary flavors of Toxicroak. There is the rank 1 Toxicroak, and there are some very specific matchups that the rank 1 can achieve, so I do feel like the rank 1 does have a seat at the table here. But what's going to be more important, the more general use one, is going to have a moderate attack weight of about 136. Then we have the high attack weight Toxicroaks, which are Toxicroak that are going to be more focused on the mirror matchup, where you're going to want to be pushing at least 137.75 attack. One trait that all Toxicroak are going to share in the Great League, though, is the minimum amount of bulk that they want to make sure that they have. Starting out with the defense stat, all Toxicroak want to have at least 89 to about 90.2 defense. A good safe kind of cutoff zone could be 89.79 as a safe, moderate, medium defense check, but going for the higher end of defense always pays off for the Toxicroak here. First and foremost, this defense allows you to avoid the mirror breakpoint from opposing attack-weighted Toxicroak, right? And this defense check, this defense breakpoint, is kind of what reins in a lot of mirror-focused Toxicroak, because if you get so much attack and you thrift so much on your defense, well, now you're losing that defense breakpoint while opposing Toxicroak can still maintain that defense breakpoint. And while you are getting charge move priority, which is a huge deal for the mirror matchup, well, you know, losing that attack breakpoint can hurt you in other ways, or getting the breakpoint on you, you know? So kind of a big deal there. This defense weight also helps out for the Shadow Venusaur 1-1 shield scenario and the Charm Alolan Ninetales 1-1 shield scenario, as so long as you at least have 130 HP. Now, if you have even higher defense, at least 93.51 defense, you do have potential to take on Talonflame in the 2-2 shield scenario with at least 132 HP specifically, and I think only 4 possible IV spreads can do this, and the best of the bunch is going to be the rank 1 in this circumstance. In fact, the other IV spreads will have a lower attack weight and bulk weight compared to the rank 1 even. So this is like the one cool thing that the rank 1 has going on, in my opinion. Gives it a seat at the table, but I do feel like the moderate and the high attack weighted Toxicroaks are definitely going to be more bread and butter for the Great League meta. Moving on to the HP stat, HP is kind of goofy for Toxicroak because Toxicroak has such low defense. It can pick up charge move breakpoints fairly easily based on its own defense weight and the attack weight of its opponent. So a true clear-cut safe HP weight isn't exactly clear, and going for higher defense to, you know, make your HP weight more consistent isn't exactly 100% clear either. But what is pretty dang clear across the majority of simulations is 129 HP is like the hard minimum cutoff for Toxicroak mirrors in general, and having a HP stat in general is an important thing for Toxicroak across all matchups. So I'm drawing the line in the sand and I'm saying 129 is the bare minimum. Obviously, for some other matchups, such as the Charm Alolan Ninetales matchup, you may want to have 130 HP or higher. Obviously, having more HP could help you in other scenarios based on the opponent's attack weights or depending on prior damage and stuff like that. But at the same time, having a higher defense weight could help the, you know, lower HP weights the same way. So it is a little bit inconsistent. Because the situation's so goofy, I have a couple example matchups linked on the article on GamePress for you to plug your own IVs against to test your Toxicroak to see if it's meeting at least these minimum bulk checks for these specific matchups, right? So I got a rank 1 Azumarill, a slight attack weighted Azumarill, the Spark Lantern, and then an attack weighted Shadow Walrein. And yeah, so what you're going to do here is with the PvPoke matchup, we got the Azumarill set up already, we got the matchup set already, And then what you're going to want to do is plug in the specific IVs you're looking at and see if you're still able to overcome this Azumarill. And if you're able to overcome all 4 matchups, then I would say your Toxicroak is doing pretty good. If you're interested, you could play with their IVs to give them different stat weights to see if you can handle more unique kind of IVs going on too, outside of, you know, the lines that I'm making for you to color in here. And that, I definitely encourage doing that there. And I will say too that if your Toxicroak can't overcome all 4 of these matchups, it doesn't mean the Toxicroak's bad. There are a lot of specific jobs that are more important for Toxicroak depending on the meta you're expecting or the cup that it finds itself in. But if you're the type of player that's like, hey, I just want to build my one Toxicroak and know that's the good Toxicroak, you know, and you don't want to think about Toxicroak ever again, well, then you're going to want to make sure you at least meet those 4 matchups there. So here I have a list of PvP IVs that have at least 136 attack, and then the 89.79 defense stat with a 130 HP stat for a good, simple, general use, moderate attack weighted Toxicroak here. And I think this is a Toxicroak that will probably function best in general for like GBL metas or cups where Toxicroak is pretty good, but it's not exactly the top pick, right? So what this attack weight does for you is it gets a breakpoint on Lantern, allowing you to overcome both Water Gun and Spark Lantern in the 1-1 shield scenario. It also gives you a cheeky 1-1 shield scenario win against Noctowl as well. And then it also gives you a breakpoint on Registeel, which I don't think it flips any specific matchups, but it does allow you to, you know, overcome Registeel more consistently, more cleanly, get some more farm action on it, or in an uneven situation allow you to overcome it. So I think it's just a good general mindful thing to have. And that's at as low as 135.3 attack. So you're going to be getting it anyways. It's not a big concern here. And then it also gets a cheeky breakpoint on Skarmory, which I think is hilarious because would a Skarmory ever imagine, you know, losing to a Toxicroak? And with this, you can overcome it in the 1-0 shield scenario. So you spend a shield, they don't spend a shield. So if you hit them with like the Mud Bomb, you know, they got this. They don't need to shield no Toxicroak. This is going to be the easiest time of its life. It's going to get the farm down, swap advantage. It's going to get the whole dang package. And then you hit it with the Sludge Bomb and win. Skarmory didn't see that one coming, did it? And now Toxicroak has swap advantage. So I think that's a pretty deadly breakpoint there. And I'd say above all else, that's probably the one of the more important elements to this attack weight. And this attack weight also gets a breakpoint on the Shadow Walrein. The rank 1 Shadow Walrein, you need 134.48 attack. And what's hilarious about this to me is that the rank 1 Toxicroak just misses that. Now it is a Shadow Walrein, so it could have a lower defense stat, but it's really easy for Walrein to have a slightly higher defense weight than the rank 1. Like there's tons of defense weights for Walrein that are greater than the rank 1. So 136, you're basically almost guaranteed to have it, right? But I just want a little extra poison jab there in the side of the rank 1, missing out on that breakpoint. And this list is modifiable too. So if you find like the 90.2 defense to be a better check for you, then you can modify that down here and then have the list like filtered down to those options. And then here I have the 42 mirror focused options for the Toxicroak, using the 89.79 defense and then cutting it down to 129 HP, because if you are mirror focused, then I feel like you really do want to pump a little bit more into that focus, where trading off that 1 HP is reasonable there. And then a 137.74 minimum for the mirror matchup. Basically with this attack weight, you're able to beat the rank 1 Toxicroak and really high bulk weighted Toxicroaks in the 0-0 shield situation, based off of the charge move breakpoint there, where otherwise you could possibly lose against them, circumstances depending. So it's just a good consistency marker beyond just the CMP. So if you want to think about the best spreads here, you could sort this list by attack, which just put the rank 683, the 8, 9, 10 on top. The 8, 9, 9 has an empty HP stat, so it's the same exact stats here. But the question becomes, is this the best mirror Toxicroak? You will notice that they have 89.97 defense, and this defense makes them vulnerable to the attack breakpoint of a 138.47 attack weighted and beyond Toxicroak. And then to add to that, the 138.76 only gets the breakpoint on Toxicroak up to 90.2 defense. So that means that these guys here with the 90.22 and beyond defense, these 4 options that also have that high enough attack weight to get the breakpoint on them, could be advantageous against them in some specific kind of scenarios, mostly uneven ones. In the 0-0 shield scenario, this will be enough for them to survive with 5 HP and just KO these guys. But when it comes to the 2-2 shield scenario, because these Toxicroak have at least 129 HP, they will be able to overcome that matchup with just 1 HP there. So this kind of just paints a little bit of a picture for you on just how wild, wacky, and confusing the Toxicroak mirror matchup can be. In my opinion, if you have any of the options that are above 138.47 attack, then you're probably in the good. And if they're one of the ones that have 90.2 or greater defense, well, that's even better. But if you're looking for a mirror matchup Toxicroak, I'd say all the options on this list, all 42 of them, are fantastic. Now, all these silly attack weights are all fine and dandy, Mr. Swag, but what are the real pros using on their Toxicroaks? And I gotta tell you, it really comes down to the meta that you're in. For example, the Silpharina's Season 2 regional format, which I think was also the Voyager Cup, Toxicroak was basically a mandatory pick, and a ton of matchups featured the Toxicroak mirror matchup. Therefore, having a high attack weighted Toxicroak that also has those minimum defense and HP checks would be very important in that type of situation. For example, me and my buddy Jacob being the first place winner of my regional, mind you, we're hyper focused on pumping as much attack as possible in our Toxicroak while maintaining the stat checks from this deep dive. I don't think I had it as lasered in as we do now, right? Because it was a couple years ago and our resources for finding, breakpoints and ideal IVs were a bit different then. But the end conclusion is basically the same for the mirror matchup Toxicroaks here, right? So when it comes to a format like this, then it is a pretty big deal. And it's not too hard to imagine a cup format featuring a lot of Toxicroak matchups, right? In fact, I used Toxicroak to hit Legend this season here in Go Battle League in the Willpower Cup, right? My team was Umbreon, Mandibuzz, Toxicroak. It's actually more of an ABC team than an AAB team than what it sounds like, but sometimes you play it as an AAB team, depending on what the lead is. All circumstantial, right? At any rate, Toxicroak was basically my MVP, and this was a relatively Toxicroak heavy meta because Toxicroak's really good in the Willpower Cup. Thing is that my Toxicroak was in the back, not in the lead, and I recognize that there's a lot of goofy charm users in the Willpower Cup, right? So I decided to go with a more moderate attack weight, kind of bulk focused Toxicroak for the Willpower Cup, basically because of where it was in my team position and, there being more rogue attack variant kind of Pokemon than there were Toxicroak for me to fight through. So it all comes down to the meta. Now, if you don't believe me and my friends and my little anecdotes there, you want a real champion level player, well, we do have Wild Susan Boyle, aka Chaz, aka The Machine, right? What Toxicroak did he bring to his regionals here in the Play Pokemon Championship? Well, talking to Chaz about it, they went with a 136.2 attack weighted Toxicroak with bulk focus after that. Because in the regional format, are you going to be in the Toxicroak mirror ever? No, I think Chaz was probably the one crazy wild person here, the wild Susan Boyle, if you will, to bring a Toxicroak to regionals, right? And because of that, it made sense to go with that moderate attack weight, right? But have more of a bulk focus than a mirror focus because there is no Toxicroak mirror. So I'd say overall, if you just want a one and done Toxicroak, you don't want to think about it too much, going for those moderate attack weight ones are going to be perfectly fine. But if you do find yourself in a Toxicroak heavy meta, well, keeping your eyes peeled for those attack weighted Toxicroaks for the mirror could pay off pretty well. And one final note I'll make on Toxicroak in general is that Toxicroak can be very sensitive to its defense weight against charge moves from its opponents. It's never 100% clear what the best Toxicroak in general is going to be. So it usually takes a lot of experience to play Toxicroak exceptionally well. If you do find yourself losing in some specific matchups that you'd prefer to be winning and you're not sure why you're losing them, definitely investigate the matchups on PvPoke, run some simulations on it, try to pin down why your Toxicroak is losing and what kind of IVs you'd need for it to overcome these situations that you thought you should be winning in, because Toxicroak is just tricky like that, right? And I think that when it comes to a lot of like use cases for Toxicroak and its stats, it can be very like custom to the player and the meta that you're going against. But of course, if you're not too interested in putting in all that crazy effort there, well then just go to the top of the list of my moderate attack weighted ones, and that'll probably be your best bet forever, right? Moving on to the Ultra League here, I first and foremost want to highlight these 3 magical Toxicroak IV spreads. These are the best buddy Toxicroaks, right? That have the highest attack weight of like best buddy possible Toxicroaks there. So if you find yourself in a classic cup kind of format, these Toxicroak will always get CMP in the mirror. And then to add to that, what you're going to find out later on in this deep dive is that they also kind of hit the ideal stat range more or less for Toxicroak in general. So for like a ubiquitous one and done kind of Toxicroak, I'd say these 3 are where it's at. To add to that, the Hundo, the 15-15-15, caps off at level 40, and while it does have a lower attack weight than this, its defense weight and HP weight are still pretty fine on top of it. So if you're not too interested in this best buddy kind of tech here, then going for the level 40 Hundo is also perfectly acceptable too. Now, some of you that are already kind of aware of Toxicroak know that there are some other ones that should be on this ideal list here. I don't know how low I have to pump the defense to get them to show up though. Yeah, you might be wondering like why the 15-13-14 and the 15-12-15 aren't featured on this list, why I cut them out, and that's because of their defense weight. The defense weight is such that these attack weighted Toxicroak at these specific attack weights, which are arguably the best Toxicroak, especially for the classic cup, right? They get a breakpoint on them, which flips this matchup. And therefore, the Hundo may even be better than them because the Hundo at least has the defense weight to avoid the breakpoint. So these ones are a little bit more cringe than the other ones on the list. Although, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to be perfectly acceptable. So if you already built them, I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Just be aware that similar-minded trainers are going to get a breakpoint on you. And if you aren't about that goofy high attack weighted life, you want a little bit more meat on your XL Ultra League Toxicroak here. Well, here I have 164 different IV spreads that meet a decent attack weight for Toxicroak while also having a more important bulk check going on. So the attack weight that I have here is going to be 174.2, and that's again attack breakpoint on Cofagrigus and Registeel. Registeel still exists in the Ultra League, and having this attack weight on it makes that matchup significantly more consistent. And then for Cofagrigus, you may as well just give a little extra licks into one of your worst matchups, right? Then when it comes to the bulk weights, the bulk weight definitely enables the attack weight because there's so many options that meet the minimum bulk check. The minimum bulk check I'm using here is 118.82, which allows you to dominate Shadow Machamp a lot better. So you can do the 0-1 and 1-2 shield scenarios. Allows you to dominate the Double better in the 1-2 shield scenario, and then helps you out against Shadow Swampert in the 1-0, so shield disadvantage scenario, and the normal Swampert 2-1 shield scenario, as well as the Caesar 2-2 shield scenario. And the minimum HP here is going to be 167. The 167 is specific to the 1-1 mirror shield scenario. So in the 1-1 specifically, those level 41 goofballs won't be making it, right? But you will. And then it also helps out in the 0-0 Caesar situation. Now you might be thinking back to this other list here, and you're like, well, hey, the rank 17, the one that you said that was bad because of its defense weight, that has 167 HP. And this 167 HP isn't the same as the 167 HP over here because of the significant defense drop. So sorry guys, but it just doesn't work out that way. It does not get a 1-1 shield situation advantage. It gets hit with a breakpoint and it loses it like a damn fool. So just believe in the Swagman and go for the 3 that have the higher defense weight if you're in the level 41 club. And then another thing I want to mention too is if you're about the level 41 life, like you think those IVs are really cool, but you don't want to best buddy it and open and waste your best buddy slot on it. Well, if you happen to get 2 of them at some point, and they're egg hatch IVs, so the probability is there, right? It's in your favor. The cards are. You could always just power one up and not best buddy it, but then you'd still have the best buddy one for the Premier Cup. Just something to think about. But if you are going to go for the bulk side of the force, I think these 164 different spreads are pretty fantastic. And then finally, let's talk about Toxicroak in the Master League. One final thing I want to highlight here is Rubkey's reverse search strings for PvP IVs. I'll have this linked in the description as well. And if you don't know about the reverse search strings, basically it'll filter out all the Pokemon that you don't want to keep as far as the IVs are concerned, so you can mass transfer them during a event like a community day or a spotlight hour, so you can keep on catching while saving the IVs that you might actually want, with some false positives thrown in the mix too. But the important thing is that there's no false negatives, so you're not throwing away the stuff that you want to keep, right? So this is an extremely useful thing. I have a whole video talking about how to use this and make sure that you're actually getting the full copy paste to happen, because some phones don't support that much text. So yeah, link in the description to a Rubkey here, and then also link to the video talking about the reverse search strings more. Really useful. Another thing to highlight too about this is that this takes a lot of storage space on a Rubkey's computer. So after like a month or two, he'll end up deleting the folders. So if this isn't here in the future when you watch this video, just search for a Rubkey on Reddit and see what posts he has going on, right? Pretty convenient stuff here. At any rate, that's all I gotta say about Toxicroak right now. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. And not the flex on my viewership here, but I happen to have one of the swag IVs with the hat. So watch yourself if you catch me in a Toxicroak meta.